Hey everyone, Joe Brady here, and I've got an interesting image demonstration and discussion for you today. And what I've got is a four-shot image, four-shot stitch of Ruby Beach in Olympic National Park in Washington. Now the day we were here, it was very misty, very foggy, very mysterious, but also very calm at the same time. And the question was, when you have an image with this kind of very subtle color, is it best to leave it as a color or should it be converted to black and white? And it depends on, in my opinion, how graphical the image is. Very graphical kind of images work better in black and white, while subtle colors generally work better, I think, in color, leaving them in color and just enhancing where it needs to be. So we're going to do this demonstration completely in Lightroom and take this from fairly bland to something very subtle and beautiful. Let's take a look. Here we have a lovely four-stitch panoramic of a visit to Ruby Beach in Olympic National Park in the state of Washington. And it was a beautiful morning, very misty, very mysterious. What really made this shot work for me was just this lone figure just happened to show up. Now this image is completely unedited, so other than being stitched together, haven't done anything, haven't taken anything out, was just lucky enough to have one person show up and fill this empty spot and provide a context of size to the rest of the scene. So really, it was just a great happenstance that I was ready for that. And the question is an image like this going to work better in black and white or in color? So let's just do a quick take and see, well, is black and white the answer? So let's just, let me just hit done on here. Let's click on black and white and see what happens. And the initial black and white is actually kind of bland and actually loses a little bit of the life that it had with that very subtle color. Let's see if we can bring it back a bit. Let's bring up the dehaze because it's obviously very hazy, but that made the shadows too dark. So let's bring the shadows up. And we're still losing the clouds here, so let's get a big brush. I've got auto mask turned on. Let's turn on our overlay so we can see what we're selecting. And let's just select the entire sky down to the horizon there. Get around the trees, and we'll get this one little piece in there. Again, that's the beauty of having auto mask on. All right, so we've got a good selection here. Let's hit O to toggle that off. And now let's add dehaze just to that. And okay, that's looking a lot better. My gut, however, at this point is telling me this is not a black and white image. This is one of those images, it's not quite graphical enough. It's very subtle. And a subtle image, I think, is going to require the color. It's just going to make it a much better image. So I'll go ahead and make a virtual copy of this. And then I'm going to reset it so that we can approach this image more as a color image. So let's click on reset. Okay, so there we are back to our color. So let's see what we can do here. All right, so the foreground is good. We obviously need some saturation, but the sky is way too light. And if you look at the histogram, this image was shot to the right. What that means is it was a shot pushing the exposure over to the right side, to the lighter side. And what this does is it gives us the most data to be able to separate out the fine differences and the highlights. We can always make the shadows darker, but we want the highlights to be here. And when you're photographing in the mist or in the fog is very reflective. It's like snow. So you want to make sure you don't use your camera's meter because it will underexpose this stuff greatly. Use the histogram and get this off to the right. So I think our best bet to bring the sky down is actually going to be with a graduated filter. So let's get a grad filter here. And I'm going to say about right here, and I'm going to pull it down. Oh, I think actually I'm going to bring it up a little bit. I want to have it a little more gradual fade. I think something like that. If we hit the O key, we can see what it's picking up. Yeah, it's not really doing enough on the ocean. We can take that out. Let's go ahead and do that. I'll hit Alt to turn it into a minus, and we'll just make sure that it doesn't get that area. Okay, so now we have our O. Let's toggle that off, and let's add some dehaze to bring this details in the sky out. Oh, that's so you can see there it is. You can see there's a lot of structure in these clouds. Let's bring the overall exposure down a little bit. And I'm just going to bring the highlights down some more. And that's looking good. Let's add a little contrast. And let's add a little bit of clarity. There we go. Now, when we did this, I wasn't paying attention to the trees on the right. They got kind of dark. So if I hit the O key again, yeah, you can see I don't want this stuff included in that graduation. So again, I hold down the Alt key. And since auto mask is on, I can just drag along here and it will pick up the trees and leave the sky to do its thing. All right, now let's see. Yeah, it looks a lot better. That's what we're after. Because again, there's this brightness near the horizon that is naturally occurring. So we do want that. Now the rock, maybe we can do a little bit for that, but let's first see what we can do with the overall saturation. So I'm going to add a lot of saturation to this because the colors in here are already very subtle. And these greens I want to bring out, maybe a little bit of color in the beach. Now when I did this, the sky went way too light. But that's easy to fix because we did the sky with this graduated filter. Let's just bring the saturation way down on that. When we do that, it lightens things up. We can darken a little bit more. And in fact, we can even bring that down a little bit more. Actually, let's put a little bit of saturation in because there was a little bit of color. You can see it here in the sky and in the beach reflections, so we don't want to completely get rid of it. I think something like that. That's looking good. All right, so now where does our eye go? Obviously, it goes to the rock, goes to the person. Now, the problem is the beach over here is a little bit too strong. It's this big solid area. Is a crop the answer? Perhaps. We'll try that. But first, let's get a brush and let's select this beach area. So I'll hit O. I don't want auto mask on. I just want to be able to kind of select this entire area just cleanly. Something like that. Let's hit O and let's open that up a little bit. Let's just open up the exposure and bring down the contrast because we want it to have that kind of misty feeling as well. And now while we're at it, let's go to the rock. We'll hit New. Again, I want auto mask on this time. Let's hit O. And yeah, let's select that. Hit O, and let's bring the exposure up a little bit on that. I was originally thinking about adding a lot of clarity and structure. You see what happens. But if I do that, it just becomes overpowering. I don't want that. I want it to remain misty. So I'm actually increasing the exposure to have that mist still in there. All right, looking pretty good. So let's hit done with that. Let's go ahead and add a vignette. I'm going to give it let's do the full vignette and cut down on the roundness. I want it more towards the edges. And then we're going to bring the midpoint down so that it comes in from the edges a little bit more. And then we'll back off our amount to 14 or so. That's good. All right, I think that works pretty well. So the only question that remains is, should it be cropped? So let's make a virtual copy, Command or Control apostrophe, and I'm going to bring in off the right a bit. And again, my concern is that this beach is a little bit too strong because it's so big that it is taking your eye away from what else is going on in the scene. So let's come in from the left a bit. I'm going to come a little bit more in, I think about there. We'll put our rock on our third, and even we have our secondary rock on our right third, and let's hit OK on that. And as I do that, I think maybe there's a little too much sky too. So let's bring the sky down. We want the panoramic feel of this, because when you do this, it makes the rock a little stronger, becomes a larger percentage in the scene. Plus, it really forces you, once again, to look across this image from left to right. Now, as I look at this, one little last fine tune, as I'm loving everything. This one rock here has got a little dark, and it's drawing away because it's darker from our main rock. So let's just go ahead and fix that. So I'm going to turn on auto mask, a little bit smaller brush. Let's hit O so we can see our overlay. And in fact, let's zoom in. Let's drag over to here. Let's just get these dark pieces of the rock. And I just want to bring it down a little. And when I do bring it down, I want to be able to see the other rocks. So let's back off on our zoom. So let's hit O. And you can see, yeah, a little too dark. I'm going to open up the shadows better. I'm going to bring down the contrast. I want to kind of take away some of the structure of it. Do I want to lighten it? No, I don't want to lighten it actually very much. I just want to make the contrast very flat. And I'll even bring the shadows. There we go. And what we did was we kind of evened out the tone of this rock to the rocks in the back. And by doing that, it's not competing as much with our primary rock. Let's just take one more close look. as we look in there and just make sure that we're getting these darker shadows. Yeah, that looks pretty good. Yep, that looks good. All right, so let's zoom out. We'll hit done. There's our final. And I just love the whole mood of this scene. It's just such a beautiful place. So mysterious, but with the mist, there was something very calm about it as well at the same time. And just having the one figure come in and get captured in this open spot just kind of fixed the entire balance of the image and created this panoramic feel. Love it. This is definitely going to be a print. Hope you like that. Thanks for watching, and I will see you online again soon. Bye-bye. Hey, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you took notice of how at the end, when I took the final crop down, just bringing a little bit of the sky down, how it had a big effect on the image. It made the primary rock bigger vertically in the frame, which gave it more physical weight, more visual weight, and that's what helps guide the viewer to the primary subject. So, and again, another little tip to make your landscapes a little bit better. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you online again soon. Bye-bye.